Alright, hello everyone, this is Zircon Eagle 16. I'm here to explain the comparison between save projector save warp and not doing it. I decided to talk through this one because it's a pretty in-depth and situational and it may be better explained if I say it as opposed to like just typing an explanation on a video or on Discord or wherever to explain to people. It may just also because it's like a lot of variable movement here and a lot of other things to explain between top and good runners, regular runners, or whatever, and how you can choose to which one you want to do and which ones are faster in certain situations. But anyway, we're going to start off. What I did is I started off with just mirror warping and save warping with just the boo originally, and not going for the not going to even get the glove out of the chest at all, because in some situations, depending on how you read the room or whatever ends up happening with the boo or whatever may cause you to do whatever, you may get the glove before you get the boo, which makes you watch an animation before you get the boo. If you save warp with the glove, which is what I'll do a comparison of later, is if you save warp with it, you obviously save over a existing text box that you would see afterwards, which isn't too much, and then you would see an extra half of that animation afterwards that you would also skip with the save warp. And keep in mind, obviously, you wouldn't watch that if you save warped with the glove, as opposed to like if you read the room, say, from the chest, which I kind of do it depending on what the triple does nowadays. If I feel like I can get to the right, I try to get to the right. If I feel like I get more led to the left, I go to the chest and then read top left, and then obviously you have the glove right there, but you do watch the entire animation when you do that before the boost spawns. When you're save warping, you don't watch any of that. This is where the save warp comes into play, because the differences are like, the first math that I did before I really did this, it's around like 6.5 seconds to mirror warp from like the initial standpoint of you bringing out your Game Boy Horror and pressing A on the mirror to the moment that you actually can move again. It's about that much time. When you save warp, it's about 2 seconds longer than that. Difference is that you don't walk through another door, and then you don't do like a half a second or so of movement, second of movement to get flashing onto the mirror, plus not watching an extra half of animation, which I think I added to like a few seconds, like about 2.5, 3 seconds to open a door. Is it like 3.5 seconds to watch a animation of a glove, something like that? So what that does is that puts, if you're mirror warping, that adds like around 6, and it came down to whatever type of addition I did, it came down to like, I think like 3.5 seconds, which is what I had. I had an initial timing, and it's 3.5 seconds to that point, obviously, but you don't have fire like you would when you mirror warp, so you don't have the extra vacuum cancel. So then you go in there and you have to waste a second to pull the vacuum out, then you lose that second. Then you have to get fire, you lose that other movement or so over seconds. So I got around mathematic realisticness of a couple seconds to 1.5 seconds of time save. And this kind of proved that idea in a way, but like I said in the beginning, what we're going to see is we're going to see me mirror warp with just the boom and ignore the glove. Just to see a couple different comparisons. But do keep in mind, you would watch the entire glove animation if you did this, and you wouldn't if you save warped. So this may be slightly hazy, but there is a way to think about it, so I still did this timing. But I did do both. We have both options or both examples later. The boo was not being too friendly today either. He wanted to not be in there too often. But yeah, we got ourselves about a 42.3 there. And this second example would be me save warping with just the boo. You can also, like, I guess you can take into account I double cackled there, but that's not too much time. That was pretty smooth. It was hard to get like all of this like smooth movement, especially with the save warp and the fire and all that stuff, to get like something optimal to show. But I still got something that's consistent enough to understand. This one was really good. But yeah, it's a little bit faster if you don't go for fire in the back when you're mirror warping and have to wait for him to attack you and lose that extra second. The thing is, you don't get a fire refill though, so for like 100% when, and I'll hold this for a second, if it's like 100% and now we do lugs and chest and all these other extra vacuum cancels, you may struggle to keep all the fire you want. So a lot of us, even top runners, almost always get fire now. So if you're always going to get fire now, that's what this comparison is for. This comparison is for if you always get fire with just the boo. And I assumed this would be about a second, and it seemed like it was about a second. Also keep in mind doing that flashlight skip and YOLO directly into the mirror was important here. Because not many of us that mirror warp even do that, which is like another half second there probably. If you don't do that, which I never got comfortable with doing it until literally doing this comparison today, just to do it, show the comparison. And you can see there's a second difference there. It's even a little bit slower. I lost probably like maybe at as much of a half a second to double cackling to like a smooth boo, for example, like I got on that one with the save warp. So probably like a low 43, still like a half a second or so slower if you got fire right away. If this was your option of choice, just a little bit easier to do save warp for me. That's one of the reasons why I do it, so that I don't have to do like be consistent with stuff like that mirror strat that you have to be in bank shot or whatever. It's a little bit easier strat to do, in my opinion, to do save warp as well. That's just a preference. You just get the boost, save warp, and then you don't have to worry about like being that advanced in other things. Like easier and consistent to go faster. It's kind of what I do. That's kind of what I'm known for doing. And then we have the option, or we have the comparisons of me actually getting the glove with the boo here, which this was a really good one. It took me a long time to even get this to work. I was willing to like talk out and compare like how much time I lost getting to the glove, but I actually got all the way to the door once and got really clean. So we were good. But that's the thing about it, it's like, how many times do you get all the way to the door with it? You can get all the way to the door, but is it easier and more consistent to do save warp? Another preference of mine. Another thing that's less complicated to do. Or what makes save warp less complicated to do. We got like a 48 there in the non-save warp. Obviously there's a few, maybe a couple tenths of a second in there if it's like a perfect smooth boo, but the save warp comparison I'm going to do is literally going to do the same thing, so it's not a big deal. I think I had like a long extension here. playing around with fireballs or whatever, but yeah. I mean, so yeah, here's the save warp option. But yeah, I mean, even keep in mind, like, the boo difference, even though I compared the boo earlier, you still would watch this animation beforehand, and you wouldn't watch it here. But you also would get that small little time save if you went right to the chest right away, for example, when you had the room of waiting for it to fall. There's also that, so maybe that evens out. Maybe made a little bit more mistakes there, but yeah, you see how it's a couple seconds faster. Especially when you get the gloves. So especially if you don't want to do like, if you find it hard to like do like all of the real YOLOs you need to do here, and you're comfortable with save warping, feel free to do it. It's much easier for me to do on a consistent basis anyway. I think on a consistent basis, it's at least easier to do the same speed or faster in situations. I always did it faster because I could never quite do those things as fast as I wanted them to do at a consistent rate. So it's just an easier way to do things at a faster rate. And obviously there's also that, let's see, what's another argument? Like we got a 48, if you wanted to say this, we got a 48 on this one back here, right? With the non-save warp. Let's assume maybe I didn't get attacked on this one. I got a 48. Because I didn't do that comparison. If you really didn't want to get fire and know how to balance particularly, maybe you can save enough fire there. Save that extra second. Still saved a second on a glove. Grab. It seems like it's about a second to 3/4 of a second to wait him to come back around here. Yeah, it's something like that. But anyway, yeah, I wanted to compare this with my own voice because it's pretty complex. It has a lot of different like variables, but I like the save warp on like a consistent basis, and it is faster in a lot of ways. I explained a lot of different ways with the glove animation and stuff like that. It's not just comparing those movements. There's a lot of variables to it, and that cause it to be what it is. But it's definitely true that if for some reason you get the glove while you get the boo at the same time, this is definitely faster. There's no doubt about that. Now, whether or not, depending on the way you read the room, with getting the boo after the glove may kind of vary. Maybe around the same speed. It may be like a half a second faster for you depending on how fast. I would say if you're not like really optimal with movement, it's probably still slightly faster to save warp on an easy standpoint. If you're really optimal with movement, it may be about the same. It may still be, if you actually get attacked with fire, as I've showed here, it'll still be slower, but let's say you don't go for fire, and you just go right for the thing right away, and you get the RNG, and then you got it. But I mean, there's also, like, the variables of where the boo actually is going to be. He's not going to be there if you run. As much as we'd like him to be there if you run, he's not going to be there if you run. He's going to be in the bottle, he's going to be in the lamp, wherever he wants to be. So, I mean, it varies. But yeah, I just wanted to explain those options there. So yeah, hopefully that shed some light into the idea of what this trick can do. And I mean, if any type of like future references, like if we ever get the opportunity of like switch VC and stuff like that, it will obviously be faster to save warp in all scenarios. It's one of the reasons why I did this, thinking it may be a thing we do in the future all the time. You never know. But that's only a optional thing. Optional thought, I guess. But yeah, I appreciate everyone for watching. and we will be around with more comparisons and stuff, and keep on them speed running. Hope I explained this well enough to understand like the different variables. If you have any other questions or don't understand, you're welcome to say your questions in either YouTube comments or Discord to me or whatever. But yeah, I'll see y'all guys around. Have a good one.